MiniWarGaming's Beat Mac Bat Rap!
Hey everybody, Matthew and Steve here from MiniWarGaming.com, and welcome to this first impressions video of the new Fyreslayers Battletome from Age of Sigmar.
The greatest miniatures in the Sigmar line.
You think so?
I do. They're my favorite. They're my favorite.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And now we're going to stop leaning on this because it's,
I know. Cause
it's,
you hear
all,
it?
it's all...
Yeah.
We're about to move. In fact, today is Saturday for you guys, and we are moving next week to our new studios.
Yep.
We won't have these stupid squeaky tables anymore.
Wait, we're not going to take this with us? It's my favorite table.
If we do, then we're putting screws through it.
Yeah, yeah,
Finally.
for
Finally.
For sure.
I don't know why we haven't done it a million years ago.
We're gamers.
Yes. Anyways, so this is a first impressions video, not a review. As much as we're going to be giving our opinion on it, we haven't played a game with the new Fyreslayers yet. Yes. That is going to come right after this video. We're going to actually be literally playing a battle report after this video, and that will be going in the... Will you stop playing with the miniatures, man?
I'm lining them up better. They got lined up better. Sorry, just to focus.
And that'll be in the MiniWarGaming vault at the link below. Have you decided what you're playing yet?
I did. You know, as you're saying that, I'm like, I wish we could like take a poll and see what we've already played the game at this point.
Yeah,
we haven't
by the
yet,
time you're watching this video, we'll have already played.
It's going to be Beastmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Beasts of Chaos versus Fyreslayers.
Yes.
And I'll be playing Fyreslayers, and Steve will be playing it. So that'll be available in the vault. If you're not a vault member, two important points. One is that you can get a free 7-day trial by clicking the link below. You get instant access to that battle report, and no obligations. You can cancel any time, and we will not charge you if you cancel within the first 7 days, and we'll even give you a refund if you decide afterwards.
Just peruse around in it a little bit first.
Yeah. But the second point is that the vault is the reason why we're able to do this, and this new building, all that kind of stuff. Well, the new building is because of Hunter, but the vault members are filling the building with all of the stuff that we are able to do in it. So that is our greatest support. I don't want to talk too long about that, but really seriously consider if you want us to make more videos to become a vault member.
We are very grateful for each and every one of our vault members, for sure.
Yes. So this is going to be us giving a quick overview of the majority of the changes without saying every single rule, because we just don't have time to do that in one video.
Mostly because this is massive changes.
It is funny.
If you put everything together, these are massive changes. It is.
It's interesting because there's a lot of change. Oh, everything got changed. Yeah. Not a single unit did not get a change.
Interesting.
And in some cases, some significant changes. I'd say when you put it all together, it has the same feel of the old Fyreslayers, but at the same time, a total rebalance of them. It's hard to say whether it's more powerful or not because their points costs all went up with few exceptions, and those stayed the same.
But don't forget, it's not that bad.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But essentially, they're all 2 wounds now.
Yes.
All these little guys that looked like they should have been 2 wounds all along were only 1 wound each, which made a huge difference. Now they're 2 wounds, and so their points cost went up. But the thing is, and some of them even doubled their attacks. They all got 2 hit bonuses. So they're hitting better, they're hitting more, and they have more wounds. But there's also been a lot of adjustments to the rules where it almost makes it so that's not enough to really give you an impression of what's changed. Because so many other rules, command abilities, the lodges, the Warscroll battalions, even the allegiance ability got changed a bit, just enough to make it all kind of cascade into a very different feel. And having played the Fyreslayers a bunch, I haven't done it for a while, but I played them a bunch before. When I look at this, I'm like, okay, this actually makes me think differently. There's not a lot of variety in Fyreslayers, so it's not like you're going to see the armies all of a sudden change a lot. It's just going to be more an adjustment of strategy.
I can see already there's more than one way to play your army now.
Yes.
I mean, you always could, but there was always that one way you pretty much did everything.
Yeah.
Now there's a bunch of ways, a bunch of different things.
Especially once they...
More things are more useful.
Exactly. Now that they've introduced not the endless spells, the Magmic invocations, which are essentially their version of endless... Magmic invocations.
Magma.
Well, Magma, yeah, but Magmic invocations. They made a new adjective.
Austin Powers joke.
Oh. Sorry. So we're going to go through it. I spent a lot of time this morning actually writing in this book with pen, not pencil.
You know what's super interesting? I didn't even read this page. I completely forgot about this page.
Well, I read it, but we read it together. When we went through the different runes.
Because it's the runes, right.
Yeah,
so I didn't even think about having the whole allegiance ability thing.
If you are somebody who's familiar with the Fyreslayers, this will make a lot of sense to you. If you're somebody who's not familiar with the Fyreslayers, this is not a tutorial, so we're going to be going through things kind of fast. And so this will be an idea of how it all works. But we're still going to try to treat everybody as a noob when it comes to Fyreslayers, just so you understand how it all comes together.
I thought there was more, sorry.
There's not. Allegiance abilities has essentially stayed the same from the one that's in the General's Handbook, which is that they have 6 runes, and they can crack each rune once per battle and only one per battle round, or per turn actually, in your hero phase. And it's the same mechanic that when you crack it, you roll a die. If you roll a 6, it does something extra, otherwise it just does its thing. And they've all mostly stayed the same, at least in their what they're supposed to do. Like, for example, the Rune of Fury used to be reroll hit rolls of 1 in the combat phase. Now it's just reroll hit rolls of 1.
No. It's I won't attack now.
No, Rune of Fury. You can reroll hit rolls of 1.
I won't attack.
You're looking at the enhanced effect.
I am.
Just ignore the enhanced effect because it only happens on a 6.
You're right, yeah.
And so that's like, hey, oh, I got a 6. What does that do again? Because it never happens.
Okay, so it's reroll 1, and it was the same before?
It was reroll 1s only in the combat phase.
Oh.
Now it's just reroll 1s. So when they throw those nasty, nasty axes, which all got nerfed,
yeah,
they hit a little better.
So yeah, to explain that right away, because the axes are now 5 and 5s.
Every unit in the army has the axes. They all used to be 4s and 4s, 4s to hit, 4s to wound. Now they're all 5s and 5s, including the ones on the heroes. So the axes were totally nerfed, which was probably necessary.
Yeah, you get the real ones to hit now.
With this one.
If you use that one, yeah, whatever.
The axes are just there's some little bonus damage that you get to do. Just treat it that way and forget about the axes that you throw from now on.
Though, yeah, I guess you can. I guess Rune of Fury has been buffed in a way.
Why?
When you're.
Well, that's what I said. It's not just melee; it's also shooting.
Well, no, forget that. When we'll get to it later on, but when your basic battleline unit goes from hitting on 4s to 3s, rerolling 1 is that much better.
True, because that reroll
there is
has a 2 and 3 chance
yeah.
of hitting rather than a 1 and
Yeah.
4 or 1 and 2 chance of hitting. That's true. Other than that, the Rune of Fiery there's more than one change here, but I'm just going to hit the more important ones. The Rune of Fiery Determination used to just have you ignore Battle Shock, but now it's +1 Bravery. That's probably good because ignoring Battle Shock is army-wide ignore Battle Shock for a whole round. Like other armies might be able to pull that off, but that still seems a little too powerful. And also the Rune of Relentless Zeal, where it gave you +4 inch movement, now it's +2 inches.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, well, I enjoyed
+4.
the moving 8 inches.
Did you find that +4 was too much? Did you find it too strong?
I was always the one playing the Fyreslayers, or I was playing against them in a campaign,
Right.
like a narrative campaign, so I never really experienced them competitively against me. I always enjoyed it.
I don't think the +4 would have been that big a deal.
See, here's the problem. Here's the problem with the +4, is once again, we're looking at it in a vacuum, right? Because we have all sorts of other things that have changed. For example, the lodges. We now have lodges, so you get to choose a lodge, and your whole army is affected by it. And if you took the Vostarg Lodge, for example, then the first turn, everybody gets +6 automatically when they run.
Yeah.
And they can run and charge. And so if you compounded that with a +4, because that's what everybody would do. First turn, +4 inch move, so they move 8, everybody runs auto 6, they move 14, and then there are command traders that they can run and charge. And so they'll basically be like, you go first.
I would try to make my list as a few. I would find some battalions, make them as few drops possible, make them go first.
Make them go first, and
Either
then
they're
go.
going to waste a turn.
And then you're going to get up on all the objectives,
Yeah.
and that seems a little much. So I think that 2 inches back. Now that's only the one lodge, but that's just one example of looking at a rule in a vacuum and being like, oh, that got nerfed. It's like, yes, but you've got to account for the fact that they have all these other things that are added in, and factor those all in. So that's just one example. I can't think off the top of my head if that's a huge nerf. It obviously is a nerf, going from 4 to 2. That's.
But with a 4-inch base move, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I don't think the 4 could have stayed, in my opinion. I'll say that.
It's a hard. When rules writers are always going to have hard choices like that, right? Like, does this fix every problem, or does it create new ones?
For all we know, after playing half a dozen games, we might find a reason why, oh goodness, even 2 is still amazing. So
Right.
just first.
I'm happy that there's one that gives me extra movement at all, which is usually going to be first turn, maybe.
Well, not
second
anymore
turn.
now. I think when it's 4, you're using your first turn. Now when it's 2, you're probably going to wait for
Well, which
it.
other one are you going to use?
Throw my axes on 4s and 5s. I'd waste a bad one.
But only 8 inch. They
Because
only
that,
have
the
8 inch range on
+2,
those.
I'd probably wait for a time when I need to go grab an objective or whatever. 4 was great for moving your whole army up. 2 is not enough of a buff to grab a whole
But
army.
if you're playing the Vostarg, where the first turn they get a 6 inch run, that seems to make sense.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that's
yeah,
built
yeah.
for a first turn get somewhere.
Sure.
It doesn't necessarily mean a first turn get to your opponent. It could be a first turn grab all the objectives.
Well, I love that you can have the discussion if there's more ways of one using it. So
Exactly. And that's a nice thing, is you can choose when to use it. There's no, like, roll to see which rune gets activated. I'd hate that. I would absolutely hate that. It'd be interesting if they did it a little like the Adeptus Mechanicus, where you could choose which one, or you could roll, and that way you could end up getting the same one more than once, because that's how they work.
Yeah.
They choose their canticle. They say, I either choose one, but I can't choose the same one that we've already done, or you can roll, and that could get the same one.
I still choose. I like control, but that's just me.
But it could be turn 4 or turn 5, and by that point you're like, I've used all the good ones.
That's true. If I
Yeah.
get the one, yeah.
Yeah, in this one you can run out of good ones. So when it comes to command traits and artifacts, we've got some significant changes here. The command traits, the basic ones, are roughly the same, but because they introduced the 4 lodges, when you take a lodge, and it works exactly the same as all the other newer battle tomes, that when you choose I don't know what to call it as a general thing. I would always call it Space Marine Chapter Tactics, because they weren't. This is a different.
But for those
game.
of you who only play AOS, what do we call these things?
I don't know. You get lodges in the Fyreslayers. You get storm hosts with the Stormcast Eternals. You get the different. What do you get with the INF Deepkin?
Special herds.
For herds for the Beast of Chaos.
Oh, sorry. Deepkin have.
You basically choose their nationality. It's like a sub race. So think of it like a sub race. You got Fyreslayers. You're trying to remember what it is. It's
Maybe it's Enclave? It might be Enclave.
Yeah, I think it's Enclave. If that sounds right. So it's basically you have your race and your sub race. Like we have humans and we have Canadians, right? Not that Canadians are below humans, but they're a subtype of humans. No, you have.
Just offended all 27 of our Canadian viewers. We got the humans here.
And the Canadian. No, I meant sub race. It wasn't like, you know what I meant. And so those lodges, if you choose one, you have to choose that command trait for your general. And so a lot of these command traits are redundant because I think you're almost always going to want to choose a lodge.
Okay, so yes. So even though, like in other books, even this one, there's great command traits, and there's a relic that you want to use.
Well, you can get more than one relic,
right? But sometimes you only get one. Mm-hmm. But I always find myself using a Bray Herd or an Enclave.
Right, and that's kind of how they're meant to be done. And then the extra artifacts is if you're not familiar with the rules of Age of Sigmar, if you bring Warscroll battalions, for every Warscroll battalion you bring, you get an extra artifact. And so basically, if you almost always want to try to, in a larger game, like 2,000 points, I'd say almost always want to try to find a way to put a Warscroll battalion in there. Gives you an extra command point, gives you an extra artifact, and the benefits of the Warscroll battalion. And so a lot of these, like the basic command traits, look very similar to what they were before in the General's Handbook. But then they added new ones for Rune Masters and Rune Smiters. And then they added 4 new types of artifacts for Rune Fathers. Grim Wrath Berserkers and Doomseekers can actually get an artifact, which is cool. Rune Masters and Rune Smiters can get their own, and Battlesmiths have some icons. So
I think that's all really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's your typical thing. The problem is, and I have looked through them, and there's all sorts of cool ones, kind of like what you would expect from artifacts. Some of them buff your hit, some of them make negatives to hit you, some of them make you more survivable, some make you more killy, some have some weird abilities. None of them jumped out at me right away. I'd be interested in your comments if you've seen any of ones that jump out, and then and just talking about that.
I find for whatever reason, every time I go through a first impressions review, I pick out a couple of things that really stick out to me. After about a month of the book being out, there's like a whole different combination to go with anyway.
Yeah.
So it's the weird combos that are going to pop up.
See, the last Battletome that I played is Gloomspite Gitz, and they didn't have the Lodge thing.
Really?
Yes. And instead, it feels like you build a Moon Clan, or you build a Spider Fang, or you build a Trogoth list.
And they didn't have no different clans?
No, but
I didn't know
the
that.
book works really well without them because I love the command traits in there.
So
the command traits and the artifacts are really good for Gloomspite Gitz.
I'm assuming you have command traits and artifacts for
each
goblins.
type.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I have that with the Beastmen as well as the
Right. So then this has it too. You have the artifacts for the
as well as my
Smiths,
Deepkin,
you have the Room Fathers, and you have the Battlesmiths, and you have the
Wonder why.
Berserkers.
But like.
So if you do want to build a vanilla list that's not a lodge, you've got lots of cool options.
Yes.
And that's the nice thing, because when you choose a lodge, you're forced to take a command trait, you're forced to take an artifact. Now, if they happen to be ones that you want, great. But what the lodge really gives you is access to a new command ability and a new army-wide ability. Like, for example, the very first lodge is the Vostargs, the Vostargs.
Add one
Vostargs.
For
and
Vostargs.
they get +1 charge, and in their first turn, they get 6-inch run. And they get access to a command ability, but you have to use that command
No,
ability.
that is one of those things that it's so good that even if the command ability, artifact power, and command trait that you must take are bad, like so usually
they're
it all.
not bad.
I
That's
know.
the thing. It's
But
a
usually
good lodge.
there's in these things here. There's one really good thing, another thing that you're really happy to have, and maybe 2 that are whatever. But
Yeah, it's usually some sort of tax, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I got to do it. And that's a good way to balance things. Like, we're going to give you this bonus,
But
but you got to take this crap artifact. You don't get to mix it with this
do you
other
have a
one.
favorite?
The Vostarg, from just a quick read-through, they fit my playstyle, which is a very impetuous playstyle. You know, get somewhere fast and start fighting.
2 additional for Greybeard, you get 2 additional artifacts of power. See that one?
Oh, well, there you go, right there.
See that's the ability for the army. That one there is like, okay, well, I can take another Grim Wrath Berserker, give him a special. Like, it just makes the characters that much
That's
better.
in addition to the artifact of power, which gives +2 wounds to the bearer. That's pretty cool. So one of your
This is
heroes.
the character heavy one.
Yes, this is the hero heavy one. It even says, yeah, this is the one. That command trait actually is very familiar. I think it's actually back here too. +1 attacks if there's 5 or more enemy models within 3 inches of the general. So this is meant to be the heroes running forward. In fact, I'm sure if you read it, yeah, it actually talks about how they're all battle hardened and they're all heroes. So you got that. That's cool. You've got the Lofnir, which are more about the Magmadroths. The Magmadroths are the little babies of Volcatrix, the big god beast.
Actually, should we explain that? They have traits now.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Well, because we're there.
Oh, right, yeah. Each Magmadroth in a Lofnir army, instead of only one, can be given a trait. So if you're familiar with Stormcast Eternals, the Star Drakes can be given traits.
Flesh Eater Courts monsters.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's only one Magmadroth in this book, unless you go Lofnir.
Lofnir lets all of them have one. And they're really cool abilities. Some of them are better than others.
Sure.
Like one of them is a Coalheart Ancient. In close combat, basically, they reduce the rend of an enemy by 1. So they ignore 1 level of rend, which is really cool. That's always like a good one, right? We've seen that in lots of other places. The Ashhorn Ancient, that all friendly Magmadroths, including the model, within 6 inches reroll 1s for their saving throws. So
I like that.
you give it to one guy. So imagine taking that one in the Lofnir, so you have them all if you keep them together, they all have rerolling 1s to save, plus they can each take their own thing and get those buffs as well. So there's other things to buff the mount overall. Their Lashing Tail abilities get better. If they charge, they can do mortal wounds. They can get better rend, all that kind of stuff. I see there's probably 2 or 3 that'll always be used. But yeah, essentially for free. And the fun thing is, for every Warscroll battalion you take, you can give another Magmadroth a trait.
Yes.
So if you want to go less Warscroll battalions, Lofnir all of a sudden gives you access to more of that stuff.
I don't think you spend a whole lot of time on the Warscroll battalions. Like try to make lists. I'm saying.
I looked at them all, and
Are you getting more than one in the list?
in a 2,000 point game,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Well, no, because the only because I think, the only cheap one is the Grand Fear, which is the Warscroll battalion of Warscroll battalions. The other ones are all 140 or 160 points.
That's not terrible. But you still got to fill the battalions.
Yeah,
right?
this is like a Stormcast Eternal army where it's a semi-elite. It's not super elite,
Oh, of course. I mean,
but
you
it's
got
semi-elite. So you have to be careful with where you put your points, because you still, in even an elite's army, the one thing an elite army suffers with is a lack of bodies, which other armies can.
Well, he's doubled up their wounds now, so.
But that still is less models to take objectives.
Of course.
Because
Also, you're losing attacks.
right, and you get less attacks. Although they also buff their attacks, so that makes up.
No,
for that.
we have to have elite armies in this game too. We can't have every army.
But this isn't. I wouldn't call this an elite. This is that middle ground.
You think so?
Stormcast Eternals to me aren't an elite army. You can build them as an elite army, but you can also spam a lot of Liberators and Judicators, the basic battle line, and have a decent army.
I see them as a weird way to find them elite horde, because you have big squads but only a few of them.
Yeah. I would say that elite horde, and then you have. The ones there's no one army except maybe Beastclaw Raiders, which is truly just an elite army.
Beastclaw Raiders are elite.
Well, there's very few models on the table, is what I mean.
Oh, when I play Warhorse, there's very few. Oh, Beastclaw Raiders. I'm sorry.
Right.
I heard
Beastclaw Raiders. Yeah.
They are. Yeah, you're right,
every
elite.
army, pretty much every army has a way to play it at high points with few models. Even the Gloomspite Gets, I can just do a troll army.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I've only got 15 models on the table.
I like that you can play the Gloomspite Gets and then play either an elite army or a horde army.
Exactly. Whereas this one, the only way to do it is in large numbers is to bring nothing but Volkite Berserkers, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's not a bad list. You got to go sparingly on the guys on Magmadroths because they eat up.
Or why not just make a list
units.
of a bunch of Magmadroths and tiny squads of Volkites for battle line with a certain character?
Maybe.
Just go super elite.
Yeah.
Go super elite.
Yeah, you could do that too, right? Or just skip the Volkites
Well, I think
altogether.
if
If you bring a Runefather as a general, then all of a sudden you can bring the Berserkers
I think the Magmadroth house wants to
Lofnir?
help. Yeah, wants to help these guys.
the shooters.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be a elite army.
Yeah,
Lofnir will be elite.
No, because the Lofnir just gives the +1 charges to Magmadroths.
The shooting phase, you're a priest. I don't want to hit rolls.
Oh
for
yeah,
range
Magma
rolls.
Pikes get +1 hit.
So all your
and win.
characters have the ability to.
So they were saying, walk around with Magmadroths
Yeah.
and Magma Pike guys.
Try
or
to.
Orc Berserkers or Hearthguard, whatever. There's one of those Hearthguard Berserkers and Orc Hearthguard, something like that. I always get those two mixed up. So War Scrolls wise, they've brought back some of the old War Scrolls. I'm not sure if they were ever gone. They weren't in the General's Handbook, so I guess you could still have brought them from the old Battletome. I read through them. I'm like, what has changed? And I have to say, some of them were pretty silly, like literally silly. The Grand Feared before had one of its abilities was you could say a declaration of what your army was going to accomplish. Like, for example, all of my army is going to be in the enemy territory by turn 3. And your opponent could either agree to the declaration, or they could say that it's not a suitable declaration, to which you can either pick a new declaration for them to try to agree to, or tell them that they couldn't know a good declaration if it looked them in the face. Literally, it's words, not mine. And just ignore it. If you end up agreeing on some weird, off-the-cuff, obviously, this sounds very much like when Age of Sigmar first came out, by the way.
It was a very silly game.
Yes, it was a very silly game. Then, if you don't get it done, your major victories become minor victories.
Whatever. Victory's a victory.
But if you do get it done, something happens. So they got rid of all that silliness, all the weird rules.
Super major victory?
The Warscroll battalions, they have the same kind of composition, with the exception of the Grand Fear, that you can bring Doomseekers and the Grim Wrath Berserkers as well. But they have more typical kind of abilities. Like, for example, the Lords of the Lodge, which is kind of all your heroes, plus some Hearthguard Berserkers.
That one changed, right?
Totally. Yeah. It used to have Seize the Initiative, which on any once per game on a battle round, you could get +1 to your die roll for who goes first. For good reasons, that's not in there. Because that's just, I don't know if that's too powerful, but it's just too gamey.
I also, if I recall correctly, I could be wrong. I think that was already changed once before. So I think it was you just choose to go first that turn.
Well, that was the one that was in the Battletome. So maybe that was different in
Okay.
the Age of Sigmar app. And maybe it's been updated in the erratas. But all I'm going to say is that, like, for example, the Lords of the Lodge, all the Hearthguard Berserkers, when they're within 12 inches of the hero, they can actually fight twice. So you can select them to fight, and then once it's your turn to select, you can select them to fight again.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really good.
Amazing.
So, but that's 140 or 160 points.
Worth it. You essentially doubled your army.
But you know what else you could do? Is you could just bring more Hearthguard Berserkers.
Right, but I mean, okay, so you bring 2 20-man squads. You can bring 2 more 20-man squads, or play 140 points and have those guys fight twice.
Well, you can only do 1 unit in the Lords of the Lodge.
Well,
But still,
yes.
You're right. You could if you bring enough Hearthguard Berserkers, the points cost of it is less than those Hearthguard Berserkers. If you bring at least 10 of them, because they're like 120 points for each 5. They're expensive, very high points cost, but it's still cool. And on top of that, it gets you another artifact and another command point, which is nothing to laugh at. So there's some cool Warscroll battalions in there. Like I said, I'm not going to go over that because what I want to do is spend time on actual units and what's changed in them, because we have some.
Lots.
It's interesting because pretty much I don't think a single thing did not get a change. The only thing I didn't look at was the Shadespire guys because they're just in there.
Nobody cares about them. Oh, I shouldn't say
no,
that.
that's not
I
true.
shouldn't say that.
There could be something super overpowered in there, but I doubt it. They got a points cost increase. They went from 140 to 200.
So they changed.
So they changed. But other than points cost,
140 to 200, eh? But is that good?
or maybe they're just like, stop playing with them, guys. They're for Shadespire.
Oh, well, there's something we missed. We should talk about before we get these. Actually, we get to the character.
Okay. So what basically the first significant change is on the actual Magmadroth. So there's 3 different heroes on Magmadroths, and in the old Battletome and in the new Battletome, essentially they were all the same. That the Magmadroths all had the same traits, and it was just the guy on top that would change it. And that guy on top had the same trait as the same guy on foot. The only difference would be the command ability would change. That is still the same, but the Magmadroths now have 14 wounds instead of 12.
Good.
And they have volcanic blood, which has changed enormously.
Yes.
It used to be, and I won't get this exactly right, at the end of the combat phase, if you roll under the number of wounds they took, equal or under, then everybody nearby takes some mortal wounds as they spill their volcanic blood. Even Fyreslayers could take some mortal wounds there too. But now, it's just every time you wound them in close combat, on a 4+, whoever wounded them takes a mortal wound.
In my experience, it never actually happens.
Are you kidding? I just played with the Magma Dragon. The
Jabberslays
never works? Oh man, the one time I played with it, it just went in and murdered everything that killed it.
It's also a thing, these are more expensive models, it's also a thing you don't have to fight with first. Your opponent goes, oh wait, I don't
want to hit it.
I don't want to kill my
Don't make me hit it, man. Yeah, so you go in and you do fight with it first, and they're left standing there going, I don't wanna. No, my hero only has 2 wounds left, guy. He's like, you gotta attack him. He's like, I don't wanna. Blah!
But see, here's what's so good about it is I love those abilities where I'm gonna charge in the Magmadroth and this unit as well. I'm going to fight with these guys first.
Knowing that
because-
he can do something
because
on
my
his death.
opponent, it gets in their head thinking, oh, I don't want to hit him, it's going to kill me. But yeah.
Yeah, because that has 14 wounds. That's 14 potential mortal wounds, most likely averaging around 7. 7 mortal wounds just from existing is pretty awesome. Now, you can shoot it down and ignore it, but it's still a 4-up save, so it's not like this thing is going to insta-die to shooting,
Right.
to regular shooting. Obviously, there's always those overpowered things that could do it.
He will be a bullet magnet now, though.
He better be,
Yeah.
because on top of that, not much else changed about him. In fact, besides the fact that they get the traits now, that can make them even better. The command abilities pretty much all changed for the 3 different heroes on Magmadroth. For example, the Rune Father used to be everybody within a certain range rerolled 1s for Battle Shock and for saving throws. Now it's just ignore Battle Shock, which is both a buff and a nerf, because you lose the reroll 1s for saves, but you go from rerolling 1s for Battle Shock to ignoring Battle Shock.
I'll take the ignore.
And when you account for the fact that rune, which would ignore Battle Shock, no longer exists, and lets them reroll 1s, it kind of swapped those two. So they gave the ignore Battle Shock to the Rune Father and took his reroll 1s and gave it to the Rune. So this is what I'm trying to say. You can't look at things in a vacuum. It's like, well, okay, well, because if he was still the old reroll 1s for saves and Battle Shock, well, that's what the Rune does. So, but only for 1 round, so it's hard to say. It feels more like a nerf.
Well, I mean,
a bit. A bit.
This may be small to you, but I think its biggest buff is that.
Oh, right.
The Latchkey Great
But that's
Axe.
not the Magmadroth. That's the guy on top.
Well, it's the same model.
Army-wide, pretty much. Anybody who is hitting on 4s is now hitting on 3s in close combat.
Yeah.
Meaning any of the Fyreslayers, not the Magmadroths. The Magmadroths also gain a Blazing
that's
Maw
true, yeah.
attack, which is a one-shot cannon.
Which,
It's a 4+2+, -2 Ren, D3 damage. Not quite a cannon.
oh, melee. It's melee.
Oh, sorry, it's melee.
It's melee.
It's melee. My
So
bad, my bad.
the monster can now bite you like every other monster in this game.
Yes. He's not just claws and horns. He's
Yeah.
also got he apparently learned how to use his teeth.
Yeah, sometimes,
So
But having that Latchkey Great Axe hit on 3s now, I think is a huge
it's a 3
buff.
damage weapon, just so you know.
Threes
So when
and
you have
threes?
3 attacks and you know you're going to 3 damage and you know you're hitting on 4s, you're just like, I don't want to roll it.
I might never get any 4s.
I don't want to do this because this sucks. And then you see those 2 3s and a 4, and you rage wondering why Games Workshop didn't make them 3s. Well, now they made them 3s, so now you can rage at the 2s.
Enough buffs on this model that is significantly better without being OP.
Yeah. You throw in the Magmadroth thing, you throw in some other stuff, and all of a sudden, he's better. The Rune Sun, some slight changes as well. He lost Explosive Rage, and instead he is Vine for Glory, which just lets him reroll hit rolls if there's other Rune Suns nearby. So it's a bit of a nerf.
Yeah, it is a bit of a nerf, but
Yeah, he's got a very different command ability though. It used to be a reroll charge bubble, and now it's he picks a Magmadroth within 12 inches, and then when they charge on a 2+, they do D6 mortal wounds. So there's a very different command
so
ability.
here's the I like that. I would prefer this if it wasn't a 2+. I don't want to spend a command point on a 2+ ability.
You just want it to work.
You're spending a command
But you can
point-
also only get 1 mortal wound.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I could roll a 1 and get nothing, or I get my 2 and then I can roll 1 for damage. This is a little expensive for 1 command point.
And you have to spend a command point to do that, right?
But I'm still going to use it on the regular if I use the Magmadroths. Because sometimes that D6 mortal wounds is what you need.
Yeah, so it's situational, so it's hard to say. I think it's a bit of a nerf. It's hard to compare apples to oranges like that, though. One does one thing, one does something completely different. It's not like it went from +3 to charge to +1 charge. You're like, well, that's a nerf. It went from reroll charge to do some mortal wounds. It's like,
And to be fair, when this bubble of reroll charges, that was pre-second edition, right? So we didn't have the command point reroll charge ability.
right, we already have
So
that.
we already have
ability.
so he didn't lose it, but you have a way of keeping your reroll charges.
Yeah.
But yeah, a bit of a buff in my opinion.
Now,
Or,
all of the
nerf.
priests, all the rune smiters and stuff, they all had abilities, some runic empowerment abilities, and they mostly stayed the same, except for one key thing. They went from being automatic to activate armor 3+. So now they're like priests from every other Battletome, for the most part.
And this is the thing I was talking about earlier, how we kind of glossed over something. They have a whole page of new
Yes.
prayers? Are they call them prayers?
Yeah, they're called
They're called
invocations or something like that. Which I believe when you read it, prayers. And they're Zargrib blessings that they can do in addition to the one that they can already do.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, because it says
Fantastic.
it's you could argue that, but it's in addition to any other prayers they can chant, they also know one of these.
Well, I mean,
And when you read one of those, it says at the start, you just do this. It doesn't say instead of that.
these being rolled to work as automatic work, I'm okay with them being rolled to work.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, having more options. Is
and so the nice thing is that's a buff because all your priests did not have this thing, and now they have this thing, which is not instead of something else. It's in addition. So regardless of what they do, they could be piddly additions. They're additions. It's like all of your priests now also do this. Oh, and by the way, they have their magmic invocations, which they can also do. You have to buy the magmic invocation, but they're pretty awesome. We'll get there. We're not going to talk about those yet.
No, I was talking about doesn't their terrain piece also buff their prayers?
Oh yes, we have the terrain piece as well.
Which is, we can get to that later on. But
Yeah, it gives
also
+1 to all their prayers within 18 inches.
Yeah, it's going to help these people here.
That's pretty much almost all it does. It does other stuff too, but we'll talk about that soon too. Yeah, and that's free for your
So going from a 3 up to a 2+, even though I know I just complained about that 2 up command ability to do 6 more wounds, 2 up's not that bad, 3 up's not that bad.
Well, now they're doing 2 prayers every turn though, so it's
always
a big
more
difference.
exciting when on a 3 up I'm going to do this is the ability I need to win the game. There's that too.
Yeah. So then we go to the Rune Father and Rune Son and Rune Master on foot. Or the Rune Smiter becomes Rune Master, or is there actually a Rune Smiter on foot? No, there's a Rune Smiter on foot, and then there's Rune Master and Battlesmith. Those are different. So essentially they are the same profile as what was on the Magmadroth. They just have different command abilities that are different from what they used to be. For example, the Rune Father used to have you could pile in 5 inches instead of 3. And they had like a lookout stir thing where they could pass wounds over to that nearby unit. And now it's just +1 charge. So where the other one lost the reroll charges and gained the mortal wound ability, this one lost a kind of a weird trait and gained a +1 charge bubble.
I love +1 charge.
Right, and so that's once again that's the whole vacuum thing. It's like, well, if you're missing that, also bring just a Rune Father on foot, and he can just charge up in the middle of everybody and be like, go, and they do. And like the Rune Son used to reroll wound rolls of 1 for everybody nearby. Now it's +1 wound rolls for everybody nearby. A little smaller bubble, but it used to be within 18. Now it's wholly within 12.
Wholly within 12, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, wholly within 12 instead of within 18.
Like he's going to be really close to that unit.
Yeah. But that's usually that's becoming the norm.
Yep.
Age of Sigmar is no longer about being able to put a hero here and then
helping
chaining out one here and chaining out another there. Like, nah, that's not what we meant.
It almost feels like they're now joining squads again.
Yeah, which is, I like that. It's like, let them go where they want, but let them buff the nearby squad.
Yep.
So that's nice. It would be nice if they could join the squad so they can't get shot, but that's a different thing on a wish list, right? The Battlesmiths and Rune Master, they changed too. I don't know if it's significant enough to talk about it. There's an increase in damage and a little bit more of an attack for the Rune Master. The Grimwrath Berserker.
Let's talk about him.
Yeah, that's the two-handed axe guy. That's this guy. I've always loved this guy. He's all about just going in naked and taking everybody out and just
Just keep on fighting.
Yeah, just keep on fighting regardless of his wounds. He got a significant nerf. And that, because he used to have an ability where he ignored wounds on 6+. For every enemy unit within 3 inches, you got to add 1 of that. You could theoretically get to a 1+ ignoring wounds.
And that's
theoretically.
That's hard. Yeah.
But most of the time, you could easily get to 5+, 4+, 3+. Now it's just he gets +1 to that if there's any enemy units within 3.
So he's a melee guy. He's on a 5 of ignore damage.
But he got a significant buffs. First off, is his Ren went from -1 to -2, which is it. -2 Ren is Age of Sigmar is big.
Yep.
His damage went from D3 to 2, which statistically is the same in Age of Sigmar. 40k it makes a big difference because wounds don't spill over, but in Age of Sigmar it statistically actually is the same. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, in 40k, since it doesn't spill over, if you have 2 wound models and you hit them with D3 weapons, let's say you did 4 D3 damage, and the first roll you make is a 1, then the second roll you make is a 3. Then the third roll you make is a 1, and the fourth roll you make is a 3. You did 8 damage, but only took 4 wounds off. In Age of Sigmar, since that spills over, you did 8 damage.
Right.
And that's an extreme example, but it happens
But no,
all the
you're
time
right.
when you're doing D3 damage. It's almost when I do 5 D3, there's almost always 1 that's wasted, whereas it's never wasted in Age of Sigmar.
So weirdly enough, in 40k, I want that 2 over the D3. I want that 2 over the D3.
Yes.
I think I actually want the D3 over the 2.
Yep. I
Only
agree.
because I want to spike that 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's gonna be those moments where you need that extra wound, and you can't do it because they're only 2s.
So it's not a nerf, but it's kind of.
But there's also the moments where you need just exactly the 2 each, and
And you want to
roll
risk on that 1. Yeah.
So statistically the same, but I agree.
So
in
no
Age of
complaints
Sigmar, I like
there,
D3.
yeah.
So it's the same. They buffed both his Battle Fury and his Dead but not Defeated. The Battle Fury used to be whenever he fought, Immediately after he fought, you roll a die. If you roll equal to or any number of wounds that he inflicted, he gets to fight again. Now it's a bit nerfed because it's at the end of the combat phase, but now it's just on a 2+. But then you're thinking, well, that's a huge nerf because he doesn't get to fight again. But he does, because dead but not defeated used to be that if he died, he didn't die until the end of the phase. But if he had already fought, who cares? He just kind of blocked other people from getting places.
His job is to suicide on forward and go kill someone.
Right. Now dead but not defeated is when he dies, he gets to fight. So basically make sure he fights, and then either he survives to the end and then a 2+ gets to fight again, or he dies and gets to fight again. And this is a guy with 4 attacks, 3+, 3+, -2, 2 damage. He's going to get stuff done. And he's got a 4-up save. This naked guy has a 4-up save.
It's just pure will.
It's
will.
It's also the Urgold runes, right? Because they have a magical empowerment to them.
Oh, what does points go from and to?
80 to 100.
80, a little bit up there.
80
was too good. 80 was too good.
It's a single model, right? When you have a single model, you weren't spamming 5 or 6 of them, right? So 20 points increase, you don't really feel that. If you were bringing a lot of them, then a 20-point increase could all of a sudden cost something.
I'm noticing that characters on foot are ranging from 100 140 points. He's on the lower end of characters on foot on the new books, and he's still fantastic.
Yeah, and now you can give an artifact. There actually are artifacts specifically for Greyrath Berserkers to make them even better.
Right.
So when you invest in those Warscroll battalions, because the last thing I hate to do is invest in a Warscroll battalion and either not have another hero to give an artifact to, or worse, not find an artifact that I care to give them.
Right.
Which means I've lost some of the value of the points I paid for the battalion. Here they have so many that you're going to find something. And there's so many good low-cost heroes that there's no reason for you not to include 3 or 4 heroes in your army. They just seem to buff everything so well that you want that synergy.
Yeah, I've had some other armies where you just don't care about your heroes on foot.
Yep.
This one, there's more. All of them are useful. Every last one of them.
They can actually do some damage, some more than others.
Or they have abilities that they don't even need to get in combat. They help the army enough.
Yeah, some good command abilities or some good prayers or other things like that. The Doomseeker got changed slightly as well. The Rune Smiter, the one that could go underground with his tunneling, is basically the same. It's basically. It used to be that he would take a unit with him, so it was 1 drop. Now it's like, no, he goes under, and then when you choose another unit, they can go with him. So it becomes 2 drops.
So now that might mess up your drops. You play battalions.
Well, no, it's just you drop them all at once in a battalion.
Right, but I mean, if you want to throw, what if he's a separate battalion?
Yeah. You got to think about that.
Yeah.
It just says, it doesn't say the next. It says when you set up another friendly unit, you can instead put them underground, but you can only have one of them join him in that way. And so it's essentially the same. It just changes your drops a little bit, so you have to think about that. But the biggest changes, out of everything we've been talking about, this is all paltry compared to what is the last thing. And that is your main troops. All these guys, the Volkite Berserkers, Auric Hearthguard, and the Hearthguard Berserkers. Like how they just rotate the words, so you never remember which is which. The Volkite Berserkers are your battle line. So everything here, all the guys on foot, as we already said, went from 1 wound to 2 wounds. The Volkite Berserkers lost their ignoring wounds, and you might bemoan that, but I will tell you right now that 100% statistically it is better. And I know I always say statistically, blah, 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 blah. The way that their old ignoring wounds worked was that they ignore wounds on a 6. Unless there was at least 10 of them, then they ignored on a 5. Unless there was at least 20 of them, then they ignored on a 4. That's per phase.
There was a psychological aspect to that, though.
Yes.
But 2 wounds.
Only to people who didn't do the math.
Right.
And so let's assume that they always ignored wounds on a 4+. Mathematically, and I know somebody's going to try to disprove me in the comments, and somebody else please do me the favor of showing them how limits work. And that's not an insult, because limits are not an obvious thing. Basically, if you have 1 wound with a 4-up ignoring wounds, it is statistically the same as having 2 wounds. Assuming it also ignores mortal wounds, which these ones did. Because the 1 wound becomes half a wound, and the half wound becomes a quarter wound, which becomes an 1/8 wound. When you add them all up, it becomes 2. The upper limit is 2. That's all I'm going to say, because it's just going to get even probably too nerdy for most of the people watching this. But the thing is, they didn't always have a 4-up ignore wounds. It's only if they had 20 or more. Then it became 5-up, then it became 6-up.
And that's assuming you always roll average. Do the math. So everybody ever coming in here says I roll poorly. So then you don't have to worry about rolling a 4+.
We're not even going to talk about superstition with dice.
Please.
And I always roll poorly is an impossible statement to make, because your new rules have no effect. They're statistically.
Who's ever played a war game has said that, except for me. I know I roll.
I am. It's funny because I'm not superstitious, but I am with my dice.
Are you the type of guy who picks up the die, you roll the one, and roll a different die?
See, no, because then...
Or do you roll the die?
No, that...
you
I don't do that.
One?
I don't do that anymore because it becomes like the Vicini from Princess Bride, where I'm like, oh, it's a 1, so I don't need to roll another die. And I'm like, but wait. But what if that means it's already used up? It's 1. Now it's going to roll a 6.
Exactly.
I'm like, but wait. What if it's the kind of dice that always rolls the 1s? But wait.
Exactly.
What if it's like you can go on forever? Like which is it? Which is it? So it's just like stop thinking about it and pick up the dice and re-roll it. I pick up the same dice and re-roll them for sake.
We're all superstitious a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's not just fully superstitious. That's like, is it weighted that way too? But no,
You're trying to logic out of superstition.
My superstition has a basis in science. All right, just accept it and move on with your life. For me, I re-roll it because then I don't have to like keep track of how many ones I rolled. Like if I'm re-rolling ones, I'm not gonna be like, okay, there's 4 ones. I'm gonna pick up these 4 other dice and roll them, or I'm gonna pick up 4 more. That takes forever. I hate when people do that.
I used to
it's like, stop slowing down my game.
I used to grab the dice that are showing ones and roll them because I figured they rolled it. Now I just pick up whatever. I don't do it anymore.
Well, no, I pick up the ones because it's easy to remember.
No, I
then you grab those and re-roll them,
Yeah.
and then you've caught everything right there.
I don't switch dice anymore.
But statistically, a 4-up ignoring wounds with 1 wound is the same as having 2 wounds. So the fact that they didn't even really have a 4-up ignoring wounds, it's only at best they did, that losing that rule and going up to 2 wounds is probably, I would go as far as to say, almost 50% increase in their survivability.
Well, more than that. Forget all the math. Forget all that nonsense. Now, if you want to, you can take a 10-man squad.
Yeah, because you know they could actually survive something.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you really want to do it with a 10-man squad, you can. Now it is okay.
Yeah. Now, there is a detriment to going up in wounds and going up in price. If you have the same number of attacks,
Sure.
then you've lost effectiveness for those wounds. Like if you tell me this squad of 10 people, this squad of 10 grots is 10 wounds and it costs 100 points and they have 1 attack each. And then this other
costs 60.
Whatever. And this squad over here is 5, but they have 2 wounds each with 1 attack each, and they're the same points cost. It's like, yeah, it's the same number of wounds, but this one has half as many attacks. There's a lot more to compare, obviously, like armor and abilities and stuff. And so they went up a little bit in points. Well, a lot. They went from 120 to 160 per 10. But I think that's...
With the 2 wounds and the hitting on 3s...
Yeah, they went from 4s to hit to 3s to hit.
Like, those prices are okay.
So that's what I was trying to get to, is that if they didn't change the number of attacks, then it's not quite as effective, but they, in its essence, did change the number of attacks. They went from 1 attacking on 4 to 1 attacking on a 3.
And this is not like the old days. So their main weapon has no rend. Back in the first edition of Sigmar, or like way back when the game came out, like if you didn't have a rend, you weren't doing much damage. Now there's basically shows not that, these are enough dice.
They've gotten rid of all those 2-up saves. A lot of 3-ups are gone.
A 10-man squad's going to get his 20 attacks, 3s and 3s.
Yeah.
They're going to fail. The squad will work at 10.
Well, and if you give them the double hand axes, they reroll hits as well, right? And it's no longer...
It's reroll hits too, isn't it, right?
With double hand axes.
Yeah, but it's not reroll ones, it's reroll hits.
It's a reroll hit rolls.
Yeah.
And it used to say reroll failed hit rolls, which is much worse. Because
Right,
if you had a
'cause
debuff,
modifiers.
if somebody was debuffing you didn't get to reroll that 4 that you know was a miss, but the rules say is not a miss until after you're done rerolls, and it was just so dumb.
My thing with these guys are overall way better than they were. They are, if you want to do a 10-man battleline unit, 160 points, they're going to kill stuff. They got the wounds. I think it's a fantastic unit now.
The Volkite Berserkers do have some
don't
hitting
have to hold
powers.
them.
They do have some hitting power, but to me, their main advantage is that they've just gotten up in durability. What has gone up in hitting power and durability is the Auric Hearthguard and the Hearthguard Berserkers. Significantly, the Berserkers especially, the Hearthguard as well. So the Hearthguard are the ones over there, the ones with the big magma pipes, they're like shooting volcanoes or shooting lava at their opponents. They had an ability that if they hit a monster and they wounded them, then on a 5+, it got half movement and -1 to hit. Now it's a 4+. Oh, and by the way, +1 damaged against monsters, just flat. So they're shooting 2 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1, 2 damage each. Now 5 of them does cost 120 points.
5.
Oh, that's a lot of points. But
10 wounds.
Yeah. And they lost their +1 to hit if they were near a hero. Now they can take the wounds for the hero instead. I don't like that. I'd rather get the +1 to hit.
But you also have...
But they're supposed to be guards.
You also have the Fjord... What are they called? There's a 1 lodge. I give them +1 to hit again. With
The command ability is +1 to hit and +1 to wound. So it becomes 3s and 2s, -1, 2 damage against monsters.
Yeah,
2
that's,
shots.
That's,
2
that's
shots
gonna be,
each.
That's going to be good.
It's like
That's
goodbye
gonna be
monster. 18-inch range. It's
good.
not even a short
Always
range.
2 shots, right?
Yeah, that didn't change.
And they were 1 wound previously?
Yes.
They're way better.
Yeah.
They're better.
And their points went up from 100 to 120. And
shooting in this game is typically on the pricier end of things.
And it needs to be because it's not a shooting game; it's a close combat game.
Yeah, if you can, yeah.
But saving the best unit for last, the Hearthguard Berserkers, who are always my favorite, got a significant buff. They doubled their wounds. And remember when I was saying before that when you double your wounds and you increase the points cost, you've actually decreased their effectiveness a little bit because they have less hitting power? They doubled their attacks as well. Just straight up doubled them. And so these guys are literally worth, if nothing else changed, they're worth twice as much as what they were worth before. They have twice as many wounds. They still have their ignoring wounds. They didn't remove that. Which means they're literally worth twice as much as they were before. They were used to be 100 points for 5. Now they are 120 points. So if you compare them to the old ones, they should be worth 200 points. And they were worth the 100 points.
I gotta confirm this. I'm gonna check their old Warscroll.
I just did, man.
It just seems so much doubling their attacks. I was terrified of them before. I feel like they had to have had 2 attacks previously.
They had 1 attack that was really nasty.
And these are the Berserkers.
Hearthguard Berserkers. There's like 3 things called Berserkers.
Yeah, they really did double their attacks.
They doubled their wounds and attacks and only increased their cost by 20%.
Oh, because they had the 2-inch reach, which made them just had so many attacks. Yeah.
But they still have 2-inch reach.
No, I know. That's what. No, they had 1. Wait,
what? Did they go up to 2-inch reach on top of the attacks? Did I miss that?
I guess so.
Holy crap!
So how
they're going to fight in 2 ranks.
Why were they so afraid of these guys
previously? No, they were good previously.
I know. I didn't like fighting them.
Now they're 4 times as effective? Because you're going to...
I mean...
You don't often get a second rank because they're so expensive. But...
Okay, yeah, so you had a 2-inch reach, double the attacks.
You doubled their reach, doubled their attacks, doubled their wounds, and only went up by 20%. Holy crap.
Okay,
did Games Workshop think that they were underpowered? Because they weren't underpowered. They were really good.
They went up in points, right?
Only by 20.
Only
they
by
went
20?
from 100 to 120.
Oh, no. We're not selling enough Hearthguard Berserkers, apparently. We're going to sell a whole bunch now.
Now, they have 2 different weapons, both which I like. One is Rend... They're both 3s and 3s to hit and wound. One's -1 Rend, 2 damage. The other one's no Rend, 1 damage. And for every unmodified hit roll of 6... Hit roll, right? It does 2 mortal wounds.
I don't know which one's better.
In addition.
I don't know.
The old way, it was if you hit on a 3+, you did a mortal wound. So it was 1 attack. You had to hit on a 3. They were hitting on 3s before. And then on a 3+, you did a mortal wound. Now you're rolling 2 attacks, and each 6, I know it's not a 3, does 2 mortal wounds. That sounds more terrifying to me.
You get rerolling 1s on these guys to hit?
It's the rune, right? The one rune, you just pop that. And although another thing that I should point out with the Volkite Berserkers, Auric Hearthguard, and Hearthguard Berserkers is all the Karls no longer do +1 damage, they do +1 attack. Thank you so much.
That's the best change in the book.
Oh,
that's the best change
in the book. You know what?
You
You could just remove the +1 damage and I would thank you. Don't make me roll them separately. Yeah. Thank you for letting me roll them the same. So all of a sudden,
I've had opponents who do not roll separately.
I have literally, especially with my Grots, I'm like, he's in there somewhere. I don't care because he gets +1 to hit. And I don't want to roll his 1 attack separate from everybody else. I just don't want to. I know you could put a different color. I just don't. It's not.
I'm with you.
Also, the Horn of Grimnir, the musician for the Volkite Berserkers, used to give them reroll 1 of their dice for charging. Now it's +1 charge, which I think is arguably better. It's probably statistically the same, but with all the other changes in the book as well, I think it'll stack up to be a little better. But those Berserkers.
You tell me how this guy with this axe is going to reach past his buddy here. Oh, I just broke an axe.
You freaking broke... Yeah. No.
I just touched it.
Dock 1 hour off your pay. Because it's going to take Lee like at least 10 seconds to fix that. I probably could like lick it and fix it faster. Anyways.
Yeah, they're gross. So now I'm not gonna... I was going to fix it. No, get away from me.
Anyway. Yeah, so the Berserkers out of everything.
Oh, wow.
So we get this army-wide buff, pretty much. There's definitely some nerfs in there.
Okay, you're bringing one of these tomorrow. Oh, in our game.
Oh, I thought I was just going to bring nothing but Berserkers.
Which one? Which are you going to do first?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, both?
Well, they're pretty expensive. If we're going to play at 2,000 points, I can fit both of them in.
Yeah.
Because that's 480 to bring 10 of each. And then you're just going to shoot them first. Or...
I am playing Beastman.
Oh, so you're going to suffer the wrath.
We have 1 rock hits on 4. So it never hits.
Kabam!
A 3+ hit will never miss. A 4+1. One is dead.
Okay. Yes, I will bring Hearthguard Berserkers.
Okay.
Definitely. It's funny.
But you gotta bring these guys too, because it's 1 to 10.
Well, are the Hearthguard Berserkers... So the Hearthguard Berserkers can become battleline if your Rune Father is a general. Sure.
Sure, yep.
Well, the Rune Sons are cheaper, remember, so there's always that. They're not that much cheaper.
But here's the better command ability.
It doesn't matter. The Rune Father is the same price as the Rune Son now.
But the Rune Father, better command ability.
Why is the Rune Father the same points cost as the Rune Son now? The Rune Father's
probably the abilities they have.
Maybe.
They're charging...
The Rune Father on Magmadroth is significantly more expensive than the Rune Son on Magmadroth.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, if you bring a Rune Master as a general, then the Auric Hearthguard can be better.
Oh, I think there's something we have to... I didn't check this, but I think I heard Luca talking about it.
What?
This guy. Didn't he get a big change? An important change?
Yeah, we read it already, didn't we? Or did we skip
no, I
over
don't
him?
believe we did. We skipped over him.
The banner guy? The totem guy?
I think, I don't want to say it.
He's the Rune Master. No, the Battlesmith. No, that's the Rune No, that's the Rune Master.
Oh, that is
I
not
think
him.
that's the Rune Master.
That's Rune Master?
No, that's not the Rune Master.
What are they called?
Unless I have two of the same. Oh, I have two Battlesmiths. That's
we do.
weird. We have two Battlesmiths.
Oh, I don't want to say it.
Yeah, right here. This
Okay.
is the Rune Master. The Rune Master. Which one are you talking about?
That's the banner.
The banner, so the Battlesmith?
Yes.
Yeah, he gets +1 to save rolls to everything within 12. If he raises his icon. But then they can't retreat, which, you know.
Okay, never mind. I'll think of something else then.
That's definitely a change, and his weapon got a little stronger too.
I remember he hit maybe his old change. He planted, he couldn't move.
No, when he dies, none shall defile the icon. This is pretty much the same. When he dies, you can choose a nearby unit to say they're going to protect it. They're not allowed to move or charge. They can pile in, but they can reroll all hit and wound rolls for the rest of the game. So if they're in a good spot and they're tied up,
once you got to hold that objective,
yeah, or you're deep in a combat
Yeah.
that you need to win, then you just make sure he goes in and kamikazes, and they reroll hits and wounds for the rest.
forcing your
of the game.
opponent to fall back or take it.
Exactly. So yeah, the last thing we have, and we don't have them painted up yet, is the 3 Magma invocations. These are essentially endless spells without being spells. So they have all the advantages of an endless spell without really the disadvantages. For example, your opponent can never control them. Kind of like the new Blades of Khorne ones. And you
can do them on top of your prayer.
Yeah, I read it. I
Big
can't find
deal,
anywhere that
big
says
deal.
instead of doing a prayer, they did. So a priest can do 2 prayers, and if they have one of these, can
like the Khorne book, you're actually gonna see these on the battlefield now.
yeah, endless spells. We just haven't figured out a way to make them really useful.
I really thought they were gonna change them out of the game.
When you have to pay points, give up a spell slot to maybe
wrong.
use them, and then let your opponent also gain advantage of half of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them. There's some of them that they just can't get advantage of, but for the most part, they can take advantage of them. Then it just seems like,
But
if I didn't have to spend a spell slot, if they're a little cheaper.
I'll say at least they learned and they're not making that mistake anymore. Because nobody's bringing them.
Yeah, at least we're not seeing anybody bring them.
Every now and then you see like 20, 30, 40.1 spent for certain scenarios. Like Seraphim want one of them. The Palisades good for certain things.
The ones that are
But
walls.
all the predatory ones, I'm not seeing it used anymore.
Yeah, because it's too much of a
Shackles
disadvantage.
get used. The chronometron thing gets used every now and then. But yeah, they're spare. So they're not.
And they're so cool, so I'm disappointed. But these ones, I can see some use coming out of them because of that. Now they, instead of being able to be
these
dispelled
models.
at the end of the battle round, they go away if you roll a 1, 2, or 3. Unless there's a priest nearby, then it's only on a 1 or 2. So basically a 4+ to stick around. It becomes a 3+ if a priest is nearby.
Like, look at this photo.
I know
the design of that table.
the pictures are so cool. Like the Molten Infernoth is probably
These
my favorite.
models are just.
And none of them are super expensive. They're 40, 50, and 60 points. The Infernoth is 50 points, for example. So basically, you place it. You always cast on a 3+ with 1 die. Remember, it basically does as an invocation. You place it wholly within 12 inches, and then move it 2d6 inches. And then after it moves, you roll 12 dice for each unit that's within 3 inches of it. For every 6, they take a mortal wound. Fyreslayers are unaffected. And it gives +1 bravery to all Fyreslayers wholly within 18. Now that's pretty solid.
Yep.
And it's big, and it will block. You always have, never forget the blocking capabilities of endless spells.
It has the same line of sight blocking 1 mil. Yeah, I love these abilities.
Yeah. So that's the Infernoth. Basically, at the start of each of their subsequent hero phases, too, they get to move it. So it's during your hero phase. It's not, at the beginning of the battle round.
Oh, interesting. Magmadroth can cross it.
So you're talking. Okay, now you're talking about the Runic Firewall. I'm talking about something else. Molten Infernoth. So the Runic Firewall is exactly what it sounds like.
We're talking two different things?
Yeah. I don't know why you're talking about that one. The Runic Firewall is a firewall.
Why did you go to the Inferno right away? It's the best
Because it's the coolest one.
Okay, that's fair.
I wanted to talk about it, how it did damage. The Runic Firewall basically puts a wall in front of it on a 3+ with wholly within 18 inches. You can't see through it. And you reroll save rolls of 1 for any Fyreslayers wholly within 12 inches of it. And Magmadroth can pass over it even though they can't fly.
So just
Because they're just immune to the fire, basically.
Just having a wall that can stop a shooting army from seeing you, or I'm going to block this path now. You don't have to fly. You're going all the way
Or just stick it behind your guys and give them all reroll 1s to save. Save rolls. Yeah, save rolls.
Tons of ways of using it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then Zagron's Flame Spitter. That's like this weird cloudy thing with a face. You place it wholly within 6 inches. At the start of your shooting phase, if there's a priest within 6 inches, you can pick an enemy within 24, roll 12 dice. If there's 10 or more models in the unit, you get to add 1 to the roll. And if there's 20 or more, you add 2. And for every 6+, they take a mortal wound. So, hey, big unit right there. That's 20 or more. 12 dice. Each 4+ is a mortal wound.
Do you know you can bring all 3 for 150 points?
Yeah.
All 3.
150 points.
The Molten Infernoth is 50 points.
Yeah.
50 points.
Combining the points cost of these, the fact that they don't have an either-or kind of thing, meaning that you can't cast these instead of something else, and the fact that your opponent can never gain any benefits from them directly, like they indirectly could use them, you could have blocked yourself. Yeah, I'm bringing one. I can't bring one turn. I assume it's not painted up yet, but I want to. I'll bring the piece of terrain, though. So let's talk about that last, and then we're done.
I think all 3 I'd bring in every game.
150 points is a little steep for me to want to bring all 3. But
really?
I'd probably...
Having a wall where you need it, having damage where you need it, having a... See, here's the thing. This Molten Infernoth is also a wall.
They're all also walls.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's a little bit smaller, but this thing's a bigger base. You can block paths, make you not be able to... I'd bring all 3 every time, I think.
But you got to get them all off. That means you need at least a couple priests.
I would bring 2. Well, because they have their prayer plus another prayer. Yeah. And then the terrain is helping the prayers. Like you're bringing a couple of them anyway.
The Magmic Battleforge, the piece of terrain, actually I wish I had right here for you to see, but you can just go online and see it. The Magmic Battleforge is really cool. It's a free piece of terrain. Every army gets one now, pretty much.
Yeah.
All the new armies, all the ones that have updated Battletomes. And unlike ones that I've seen for other armies, Spike gets, this one's actually pretty useful. That essentially...
Wait, yours not useful? Doesn't it make you need a battle shock within 12 inches or something like that? Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
You place it in your side. When am I don't stay in my side.
Yeah, but...
All the stuff that cares about battle shock is... No, it's...
You can't doesn't it bring hordes back? Half of them or whatever?
That's a good theory. I've never seen it do it yet.
Are you just not liking it?
Well, because Grots are most effective when there's 60 of them, so you got to wait for your opponent to kill 60, which the whole point is that they don't die. And then on a 4+, you get half of them
doesn't
back.
have to be holding within your deployment zone? That's it?
And 12 inches away from your opponent's territory.
So you put it right up... you
played it 12 inches up, basically.
Yeah, and then you have to hold it within 12, right?
Yeah.
So you have your Shishman Grot in the middle of the bed table.
If that's where they need to be. Half the time...
What's with this guy?
Half the time I find it blocks me because it's so big. And that maybe there's one time in the game where the battle shock thing helps. And I've yet to see it bring back anything because my Grots are so freaking effective.
My Grots are so overpowered.
I know they're so good, but they don't come
back.
Exactly. The Grots are too good. I'm tired of playing a 60 Grots, man. Maybe if one of the armies I was thinking is like a bunch of 20-man squads so that I can actually see them come back. But that's so I can bring back 10-man Grot squads. Like, why? Grab an objective?
That's too funny.
It's just not that useful. This one, on the other hand, is only useful if you have priests. So I can also say this one.
I bring priests in this game, this list every time. Every time.
I think so. Especially because you can throw in a cheap one. So essentially, if there's a priest within 6 inches of it, they can activate it, and all priests within 18 inches get +1 of their prayer rolls. So they activate on 2s instead of 3s. That's nice. And once per game, they can use the power of the forge, so you'll lose the other ability that I just said. If there's a priest within 6 inches of it. And the entire table of friendly Fyreslayers now get to reroll save rolls of 1. So they all get Mystic Shield on them. The entire army. But it loses its other ability.
And that's for the rest of the game, right?
For the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Not just for the rest of the round, but for the rest of the battle. So for one turn, if you have a priest within 6 inches of it, you can be like, Mystic Shield. Everybody. Reroll into save.
I like it.
That's pretty good. And remember when we said the Rune Father lost that ability to reroll 1s to save with his command ability?
Oh, it's
here. It's right here. Yep. Oh, and now as long as you bring a priest, it doesn't matter. You don't have to bring a Rune Father to do that. So that's what I'm trying to say. There's all these intertwined changes that you can't just be like, oh, it lost that. It's like, yeah, but over here we got this and this and this and this. Yeah, they don't get to reroll 1s to save, but the Hearthguard Berserkers now have double the number of wounds for hardly any more cost. I'll take that over the reroll 1s to save any day. Oh yeah, they have double attacks too. and they trigger better mortal wounds, and goodness.
So what's your overall thoughts? What are you thinking?
I am glad.
First impression.
I am glad that they got a points increase across the board, because otherwise I'd look at this and be like, "Oh crap, oh no, they screwed it up again. They made something too good."
Well, okay, so too good. I do think this is. I think this is better across the board. I think it's really good. I don't think you're gonna, for those who care. I don't think you see this in making tournament top lists. Not because the stuff's not good, because it seems to be in the big competitive meta. There's that one big thing that it's Nagash or it's Marathi, and they don't have that. They're lacking that.
They don't. Yeah, they don't have the god reincarnated who does ridiculous
However,
buffs.
if every book going forward is written like this, the game is all the better for it.
Yeah, I like it overall. Now this is first impressions, not having played it.
Of course. Maybe we play and we find out they're actually they're actually going to be pretty good.
They're not going to be terrible. They
Not
can't
be
be.
terrible.
There's no way they're going to be terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they won't be terrible in the battle report you're about to watch, because dice are dice, right? You can roll poorly, or the scenario we play could end up being imbalanced, or who knows what. There's too many factors with the game, like Age of Sigmar.
And as always, when you get your book, if you find that really sweet combo, put it in the comments below or email me directly. I want to know.
Don't tell anybody else.
Don't tell anybody, just tell me.
Yeah, because you play Fyreslayers, right?
Well, if I play against me, I know what to have to worry about.
That's true.
But anyways, if you find that really crazy combo, or more than one of them, yeah, send them to me. I want to know about them.
So I think that's about it. I think we've done as good a job as we can, because we've been covering a lot here. There's a lot of stuff for you to assimilate. We haven't gone over every last little change because there's too many to go over in one video.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview to give you an idea. Now you get to see them in action at the battle report at the link below. So go make sure you click that and go watch the Fyreslayers versus Beasts of Chaos battle report that we're going to be doing in the MiniWarGaming Vault. As always, if you're not a Vault member, please consider joining, because that is what supports us. If you're not able to join, I know some people are like, but I'm a kid, I don't have a credit card, or my parents won't buy it for me, or I can't afford it. We understand that. Not everybody can be a Vault member. And if even just 10% of everybody became Vault members, we'd be able to triple our operation easily.
Oh, wow.
It would be awesome. Anyways, so thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all your support. I hope that you enjoy this, and stay tuned for more Fyreslayers coverage. Now, normally you'd see immediately afterwards a bunch of Fyreslayer battle reports coming out, but because we're moving, we're not going to be filming for the next couple of weeks. So any videos that you see will have already been filmed previous to us getting this new stuff. So you're going to have to wait a little longer, so I apologize for that. I always try, as soon as a new army comes out, to make sure it's featured in a bunch of battle reports right off the bat, so you can see it in action, but this one's going to be a little delayed. So I'm sorry, you get the one today, and then you're going to have to wait probably 3 weeks before you see any more. But I know for my next Age of Sigmar games, I want to play this, and so hopefully we'll get it seen sooner than later. Thanks so much for watching. Happy wargaming.